Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Harrison Township Planning Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, November 16th, 2023, and it's 7 o'clock. We are minus our secretary this evening. Danielle, I think you were going to take it, or Ken?
I can do it, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bacha,
Excused, absent?
Mr. Duncan,
Here.
Ms. Murray,
Present?
Chair Murray, I mean,
That's right.
Mr. Mulder,
Present.
Ms. Oparka,
Excused, absent?
Mr. Tominello,
Excused, absent?
Ms. Devlin here.
Excellent, thank you. Approval of the agenda as presented, please.
I make the motion to accept. Support.
Mr. Mulder, to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. May I have approval of the minutes from the September 21st meeting, please?
Madam Chair, I would just like to point out that on approval of the agenda, on the minutes, it is stated that there was a motion by me. However, I was not present. So, and Sabrina wasn't present either, so we're hoping one of you remember who might have made the motion and seconded it.
I have it written down on my last month's agenda, but I don't have that agenda with me. If you want to wait, I can review that and get back with you to firm.
I can always look at the video as well.
Okay, so we can leave that open for now if you want. We think it may have been Amanda, but not being sure. Any other changes? Okay, so motion to table the approval of the agenda from, or the minutes from the prior meeting until we can confirm the motion participants.
So moved.
Support?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Hearings and reviews, our first public hearing this evening, please.
Case number 25-23-RZ, Nick Del Greco with Mando Properties, Harrison Township, Michigan, requesting to rezone property from GC to RM2 to build a 4 or 5 unit multifamily attached structure.
Thank you. We have, is the applicant present? Hi, do you want to go ahead and come up, please? Okay, so we have a public hearing. Mr. Young, may I defer to you to, I'm trying to think if we want to just open the public hearing and then get everything within the public hearing, or have the discussion regarding the property, then open the public hearing.
I'd like to maybe give just an overview for the
Yeah.
for the sake of
Yeah, that
kind
sounds,
of preface the public hearing here of the request. This is a request, Nick Del Greco, Mando Properties. The address is 34535 Jefferson Avenue. The request is a rezoning from the current zoning designation, which is general commercial. And proposed is to change the zoning designation to RM2 multifamily residential. The property is about 23,500 square feet in size. It's a corner lot. It has frontage on both Trombley and Jefferson Avenue. The applicant has indicated on the application form that it is their desire, if the rezoning is approved, that they would come back and propose a multifamily attached structure. They think maybe they could put 4 or 5 units on that property if it's rezoned to the RM2 district. This evening, the only thing that's being discussed is the rezoning request. There are future plans for the property, for the multiple family complex, whether it's 4 units or 5 units, whether they have 20 parking spaces or 16 parking spaces, and locations and size. That would all come later at a subsequent meeting if the rezoning is approved. So they'd have to come back to us to go through the details of the actual site development. Here's an aerial photograph that shows the subject property, the corner lot here, the adjacent properties, and adjacent uses and adjacent zoning districts. The purpose of the public hearing tonight is to hear any citizens' comments for or against the request. The Planning Commission for a rezoning does not have final authority for approval. After the public hearing is opened and closed, the Planning Commission would deliberate on the request, and ultimately, you would make a recommendation of approval or denial to the Township Board. That recommendation would then go to the Township Board, and they would have final authority to either approve or deny. They could take your recommendation and make it theirs and actually adopt, or they could not listen to your recommendation and they could do the opposite. So, just for the benefit of those in the audience, that even if you made a recommendation tonight or at a subsequent meeting, that's not the end of the story. It would go to the Township Board for final approval. I think that's a good summary of the request. If you have any questions for me at this point, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Young at this point? Okay, can we go ahead and have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
I'd like to hear from the applicant first, let him give an explanation of the
Sure.
proposal before we open the public hearing,
can do
personally.
Mr. Del Greco? Hi, how are you?
Oh, good, how are you?
Good, thanks for coming tonight. You want to go ahead and give us a,
Sure, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Thank you, Adam, for all the help and correspondence I had with this. So we have this piece of property we purchased that I know the area very well. And in my belief, I don't believe the C zoning currently would fit with that area. We'd like to downzone it to RM2 with the intention of building either 4 or 5 units on that parcel. How I looked at it, RM1, we would fall short of a couple thousand square feet of land to get 4. But if you drew a line directly at the back property line that's adjacent to that assisted living facility, straight across the parcel to the south, there's 4 addresses on that parcel. 2 of them are on Jefferson, then that back property line would split that middle home. So without having to apply for variances, I came up with the idea to request RM2. Not wanting to put together a bunch of site plans and blueprints that would not be approved. I'm here tonight to see.
so you're saying you're asking for RM2 still?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this way I wouldn't have to come back and possibly ask for a variance. If the board would allow the rezoning, the downzoning to happen to that, I'd be back with a site plan that would conform to all your ordinance, plus no variances. I would build the structure myself.
Anything else?
No, I'm new to this, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. We're a friendly group.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Mr. Mulder,
Second.
seconded by Mr. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now open. So if you'd like to take a seat, what we're going to do is have the public come up and voice their opinions and concerns. And we're all going to take notes, and you as well, pay attention to the questions, because then you'll have an opportunity to address those questions after.
Okay.
And for the public, I'm going to ask you to, first of all, please be kind. That's all we have room for tonight. If a statement is made, you don't need to restate that statement. We're going to be writing these down and taking pretty precise notes. So if it's mentioned, know that it's on our list. With that, you can come up, state your name, and give your opinion or comment. Anyone would like to speak to this rezoning this evening? Okay.
Would you like to inform them of the time limit and its
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Mulder. We haven't had one of these in a while. And there won't be any back and forth discussion from the podium or from our point of view until we've heard everything. And there's generally I guess we're just going to say it. There's a 3-minute time limit on your comments. So if you could go ahead and tell us who you are.
Glenn Eckert,
Your
address
please.
27241 Dowland Street, Warren, Michigan, 48092. I'm a real estate broker, and I'm working with the seller of this property. And I did have a previous sale on this, and the gentleman that was interested in buying it was convinced that he could get 6 units on it. I tried to explain to him that that would be very difficult to do, but he went ahead and did some engineering anyway. But that's fine. People do. Property itself does have a history. It was purchased about 3 years ago out of foreclosure. The current owner, individual living in Washington Township with a family, thought he'd be able to use it for a facility for his special needs son, but decided that wouldn't be best. It's been on the market for about 2 years. I've been working on it for about 7 months. Did generate that first sale that went sideways, and then I met Nick, and Nick is a more reasonable man. I believe that the location of this property lends itself well to a down zone. And a down zone is usually easier to get than an up zone. In fact, it's 100 times easier. If you look at the location of the property, across the street on Jefferson from this property, you've got all high-density residential. And property adjacent to it to the north is a commercial property that's been on the market that I know of about a year and has had no or very little attention. So a commercial use in this property, I don't think would lend itself well to the community or the neighborhood. I guess that's about it. I think that what Nick is trying to come up with on this site is doable. And for a gentleman to come in and present a project to the municipality that will work when he's not asking for any variances, because variances always come back to haunt the community. I know that. I've been doing this for quite a while. With that, I thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up and speak to this item? This is your opportunity. Go, please come.
Hi, I'm Joe Henninger. I live close to the project. Pardon me? 34600 Jefferson. I like the idea of downzoning that particular property. I am concerned about how many people are on that spot. Property across the street is developed with the lake in mind, and up and down that street, right next door, is a duplex. But whatever happens there, I think we got to look at what's going to happen to the north of it at the project, at the property that's sitting there. So my concern would be the amount of units on that property. It looks like the one particular unit that's there now is about 90 feet. That lot is 90 feet across. I believe he's 170 foot of frontage. So it'd be a little less, that you might be able to put 2 units in there and have the same type of backyard. Or he could come the other way, split. But I would be concerned of how many people are living on that particular spot. because that's what's going to happen to the one north. Opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else?
C. William Bardell, 26-year resident, clean cut boy next door, 37865 Point Rosa, Michigan, USA. Yeah, multifamily thing in a residential, I don't think is a good idea. I think we got enough multifamily. Duplexes, multifamily, all that stuff. Just asking for trouble in the neighborhood. I mean, I don't know why we gotta have all the multifamily in Harrison Township. I mean, there's plenty of places to build south of 8 Mile, 6 Mile. Because they're tearing a lot of stuff out there, so I don't see why we just can't have residential, one-family residential. I'm totally against multifamily, especially rental properties. It's just bad. It's bad all the way around. It's bad for Harrison Township, it's bad for the citizens, it's bad for crime, it's bad for everything. And those are just facts. I mean, you know, I'd like to go somewhere in someone else's neighborhood and build something too and make a ton of money, but I don't do that. And I won't do that. I just don't think it's just another way of breaking down the American family, and this is what we're seeing, you know. But this is single-family residential, general commercial. I'd say make it residential. We got enough multifamily. It's just ridiculous. Totally ridiculous, the multifamily. It's just, I'm totally against it. I think it's very bad all the way around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bardell. Anyone else? This is your opportunity. If no one else wants to speak to this item, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and then have discussion. Yeah, actually, yeah. You know what, why don't you go ahead and come up and we'll, okay, and this is where we get into trouble with the back and forth, so,
Yeah, you should close it.
yeah, let's take a motion to close the public hearing. If no one else wants to speak to this item, and then we'll answer the questions and, okay, motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Motion to close by Ms. Devlin, supported by Mr. Mulder. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Did you want to address any of those questions?
I just wanted to say, I really appreciate hearing some of the residents' concerns. I definitely want to express that it's not my intention.
Can I have you speak up,
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It's definitely not my intention to make Harrison Town a worse place or put any structures on there that would bring down property values at all. I believe that if I'm granted rezoning, you look across the other side, it's general construction, it's abandoned, it's a bunch of used cars that are half working or whatnot. And I think brand-new structures in that area would actually increase the value of the homes that are surrounding it. I think some of them are 1980s or so. I did hear the one resident concerned about the amount of people on it. And I'm just looking to see if I can get 4 units, which, back, like I said earlier, back property line, if you draw it straight across, it's the same that's right there. I definitely don't want to bring down any property values of the kind of construction that I do. But I do appreciate hearing concerns. But thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Commissioners? questions for the applicant or comments for consideration? Well, we can talk about, Mr. Young, we can talk about the points in your letter. Oh, here we go. The existing and the proposed, we see that by the, I think you mentioned that already, that we're RM1 South, RM1, high-rise to the east, general commercial to the north, but then RM1 beyond that, yeah, to the north of that, yep, those two parcels.
Yeah, I think this, this exhibit shows well the existing land use pattern, the existing established zoning pattern in the area. As you said, we'll call it the east side or the water
Yeah,
side of
water side.
Jefferson is predominantly zoned HMR. That's our highest, high, I forget what the HMR stands for, but it's the highest density multifamily residential district that we have. Largely, that's just located along the lake shore. It does try to accommodate some of the development, such as what has been there. You know, it could be 3 stories or higher, more intensive condominiums. And you can see on the west side, we'll call it, of Jefferson, pretty much every property within the 3-block area of this site is either a commercial zone or a RM1, multifamily residential zone. You know, you're tasked, per the ordinance, to evaluate 7 standards for a rezoning request.
Our master plan, our master plan, the future designation for this, I had this up earlier.
Yeah.
Our master plan calls for, I believe it's single-family residential.
It does.
Eventually for,
Yeah, the master plan from 2010, the future land use map,
yes.
calls for everything on the east side of
Yeah.
Jefferson as single-family residential,
Yep,
which is not reflective of current zoning or current development.
correct.
And everything on the east side of Jefferson in this vicinity as this high-density multifamily.
Multiple family residential.
My personal opinion is that it's not, as I said, it's not reflective of current zoning or the established development pattern within the area. One of the standards, the first standard is it talks about the master plan. It does talk about how if things have changed since the master plan has been adopted, that you would look for consistency with development trends in the area. The master plan is dated. We're working on a master plan update as we speak. My personal opinion that single family does not make sense at this location, this corner lot, which is
It
presently zoned for general commercial.
Correct.
The general commercial zoning designation would allow a great variety of uses, much like this property that's immediately across the street, which I think in the past has been a auto
Yeah,
service.
yeah.
Has been vacant for some time, at least maybe over the past year. And I know we've had some inquiries from folks, but it does not seem to be conducive to commercial development. I also looked at the history of this site. It looks like it's been cleared and vacant since 1998 at least.
It's a long time.
Zoned commercial. Clearly, there has not been interest in commercial development at this location.
So, under the RM1, I think we're allowed four units per acre?
The only difference between the RM1 and the RM2 districts is the RM2 allows a slightly greater density. The uses allowed in each district are identical. Based on my initial calculations, and I don't know this for sure because we haven't been presented with the detailed site plan, I believe if it's zoned RM1, that they would be just under the property size to get a 4th unit. I think they could do 3 units if it's zoned RM1. If it's zoned RM2, I think they could get a 4th unit on this property, potentially a 5th. Probably more 4. This is not a large property. The setback requirements for the RM2 and RM1 district are pretty significant, I think 30 feet all around. So there is not much space for a building. The
For a
building
large-
footprint
yeah.
for this property is not significant. So in that sense, you can be assured that it won't be, 8 units. It won't.
Yeah.
And you can only go 2 stories, I believe, in this district. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is as I look at the zoning pattern, I see RM1 on this side of the street, not RM2, and
Right.
that's what I've noted in my review.
Yeah, and there's, the 3 properties to the south.
Right.
And the several properties to the north, just past that commercial, are all RM1.
The applicant is asking for an RM2 rezoning request. I don't know, 1 unit. I think that, the point that the applicant has made is he said if you, extend this line or even this little piece of property, I believe this is a duplex.
Yep, it appears, and then
I
is
think
that
maybe the
same
corner
with the
lot
other
is
one?
also a duplex,
Yeah.
so in that sense, it's about the same size. So this technically would have 8 units on this one property. And so if you had 4 on this property, I don't think that's out of character with the area, in terms of the density. So I'm inclined to.
Meets the requirements,
I'm inclined to
if we decide.
allow
it
for
meets
the
standards.
down zone from commercial to a multifamily designation at this location.
Well, that fits
Comfort
the,
level as
yeah,
far
the
as
down zone
RM1
fits the
versus
plan.
RM2.
Yeah, it fits the master plan, even if the master plan changes from single family
Right.
to multiple family to meet the existing surrounding properties.
And we've looked at, in the review, I've commented on the other factors, established land use pattern in the area. We do have, this site is actually not even surrounded by any single family presently. To the west rear is apparently an assisted living type facility. Commercial across the street, multifamily to the west and to the south. Public services and facilities, this site is served by both public water and sewer lines on Jefferson and Trombley. Jefferson is a major road, it's a corner lot, so it would have access. My guess is that the access to the site would come off of Trombley and not Jefferson. But we won't know that until a site plan is submitted. We're tasked with looking at the marketability of this site, and I kind of commented on how it's been zoned commercial for some time, and yet it's been sitting vacant for 20 years. And similarly, this property across the street has been an underutilized site for some time, and now it also is vacant and is not drawing any interest for commercial development. It makes sense to me that the market is more supportive of a multifamily use at this location.
Thank you.
Property to the north has a for sale sign on it.
It is for sale right now.
And then, Adam, just to point out that the applicant would be required to comply with the open space requirement as he develops, right?
Yeah.
Not just the setbacks, but also the
That's
open
correct.
space
And I
requirement.
think in the preliminary conversations I've had, we've called out that requirement to make sure that they're aware of that. Each unit requires a certain percentage or certain square footage of open space beyond the setbacks.
Based on the bedroom size.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, we have received additional documentation, one from our fire chief, our fire marshal, indicating that as the case is presented, the department has no issue with the rezoning. Of course, a site plan being submitted at a later time would need to be reapproved for that site plan. We also have a document from Selfridge Air National Guard Base indicating that this property is not in the, I'm going to say AQs, but essentially the crash zone. But it is in the,
Bash zone.
thank you, yeah, for, birds and,
Bird, yeah,
bird activity.
but just barely.
Say that again?
It's just barely.
Yeah. So you have, the applicant, you have a copy of all of this? Okay, great, okay. All right, any other conversation from the commissioners? I will let you know, there are four of us tonight. We have a quorum, but should there be a tie, it will be in the favor of the township, well, the board. If
Well, I
two-
think the way to say it is, if you were to vote on this item tonight, you would need 3 out of the 4
Yeah.
for an affirmative decision. Whether
Yeah.
you vote to deny, you would need 3 votes
exactly.
for that denial
Right.
to be an approved motion.
Right.
Similarly, if you voted to approve, you would need 3 out of 4. And so that's just something worth mentioning. If it's 2-2, if you were to vote to approve and it was 2-2, then
It would be
Would
approved.
still go to
No,
the.
there-
if it was a vote to approve and it was 2-2, that motion would fail. If it was a vote,
If it was a vote to-
motion to approve and the vote was 2-2, that would be a failed motion.
Oh, okay, yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
And so then someone would need to offer a motion to deny, and if it's 2-2, it's a failed motion, and then what would we have to do? Wait until more people came at the
believe so.
subsequent meeting in order to have a motion that was affirmatively, approved.
And
whether
so,
it's
because of that, we offer to the applicant, you have the option now to decide if you want us to continue with our discussion and a potential vote, or if we get to the point where we're gonna make a motion, you have the option to ask us to wait, to table the motion until we have a full board, until 7 of us are here.
a next
So,
month.
or,
Right.
right,
Or a
more-
subsequent
right,
meeting.
more than 4, yeah. No, no, because it would just be a table.
It
So-
might end up in that anyway without him asking.
Yeah, yeah. So you have that option, now, or you have that option after we have, some additional discussion and we go to make a motion. Yeah, sorry.
I apologize. Like I said earlier, I'm kind of new to this, so is it, I think it might make more sense to have more members here and get their input on it. But if the discussion has to happen, and then we could stop it and maybe table it till next time, so we possibly have more members to make a vote. I would hate to waste the time to come through here.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're prepared to move forward now, or we're prepared to do whatever it is that you would request. So if you would like us to table this item until we have one more or more, we can certainly do that.
Madam Chair, I think he was also asking too, like, if you wanted to discuss it, but I think if he wants it tabled, you should just table it.
Right.
And then allow all the members
Yep.
at the next
I
meeting.
agree.
They
Yeah.
review the minutes, they get the application, they review it, so at the next meeting, if there's obviously more than 4, then they would discuss your matter and make a motion.
But the public
Thank
hearing
you.
is still
public
closed, so there
hearing is-
won't be any additional public hearing. It will just be the matter of the vote, discussion and
Gotcha.
vote.
So my to understand it, if we voted tonight and it was a tie, then the motion would be denied.
Well, we would take,
It depends on the motion.
Yeah.
And like you said, we could, if we approved and we tied, then we could do a denial and it would tie, and it would basically automatically table.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste anybody's time. I think we should probably table it. That makes sense. Is it possible, request a conditional, RM1, we're short the square footage, per your ordinance, to get 4 units on it. RM2, we would make, we're just short on RM1. But why I said RM2 in my application like earlier, I don't want to go through the variance process and from that, is it possible at this time to make a request that if RM2 is denied, to do a conditional to RM1 allowing a variance within that?
well,
Or-
your case is asking for an RM2. That's
Correct.
what you applied for.
Correct.
Maybe I
That
can speak
require
to
a new
that a little bit.
application.
Yeah,
It would be my opinion that the applicant could change and go to a even lower district request if that's if they're willing to do that, if that's kind of what they believe, maybe the sentiment of the planning commission is that you're inclined to support an RM1, but not an RM2. The applicant, if they're okay with that, if they'd rather have an RM1 approval as opposed to an RM2 denial, that they can do that. We would not have to republish the public hearing, because we're not asking for something more intensive. We're
Right.
actually asking for something that would be less intensive than what the notice called for. Is that your
correct.
understanding as well? So that would be the applicant's purview, and the applicant could make that decision next month. If it's tabled tonight and next month we have all 7 members or more members, and that's where the discussion is going. If the applicant wanted to voluntarily say, yes, I'm willing to go down to an RM1.
If the applicant wants
And
to
then
go
you
down
could
to
vote
an
on
RM1 tonight and now, and
That's something
hold the
he can
vote.
indicate to you.
Okay, all right.
I think at this time, it might make sense to table it till next
Okay.
month if possible.
We can do that.
Okay, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Del Greco. Okay, may I have a motion, please?
For
Or-
the motion, I know we have Fire Marshal Shackett in attendance, and I believe Mr. Baker here from Selfridge. If they wanted to add or make any comments in the letters while they're here tonight?
Sure could.
No, I don't have anything further to add, just a site plan to be submitted at a later date for recommendation.
Thank you.
Ken Baker, Selfridge Air National Guard Base. I really didn't have any additional comments regarding the submittal other than what we provided.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure they had the
Nope.
chance while
You're
they're
good.
here.
Nope, that's good.
Did we want to have a discussion amongst ourselves? I don't feel like we.
We could, or
It's too late
if,
because now he's asked for a tabling?
well, if
I think
he's,
procedurally, then you should just table it and then
Yeah.
have your full board
and
discussion.
wait for more people, wait for more members to participate.
Well, everyone's going to be bummed out tonight then.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Okay, motion, please.
I will make a motion to table case number 25-23-RZ.
Till the December meeting?
Till the December or till the next meeting in December.
Okay. Mr. Mulder. Motion to table the case until the December meeting. Discussion on the motion.
I'm only voting yes because the applicant has requested. Otherwise, I think I would have preferred to move forward with discussion and a vote.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm sorry, who's supporting?
Tim and Ken. Okay, Mr. Del Greco, you are tabled until December. We'll see you in December. Thank you very much. Okay, our next case, please.
Oh, it's me. Our next case is case number 26-23-RZ Mansour Companies LLC for a rezoning of properties at the southwest corner of William Rosso Highway and I-94 from IND to GC for development of mixed use.
Thank you. The applicant?
Yes, good evening.
Hi.
Jim Butler with PEA Group. Address is 1849 Pond Run, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326.
Okay. Mr. Young?
Okay. So just as an introduction to this agenda item, this is a rezoning request for 4 adjacent properties, which are located on the south side of Rosso Highway, M59, to the west of Interstate 94. The request is to change the current zoning designation of these 4 properties, which in combination total just over 24 acres of land, from the industrial district, which is the present zoning, to the general commercial district, which is the proposed rezoning. The property here is an aerial photograph. As you can see, these 4 properties, they essentially border the M59.
The standards, whether you adopt the findings and conclusions as set forth by the planner in his letter dated whatever, that you are in agreement with those, and if you want to add to them, you can do so or whatnot, but you should put the reason in your motion.
And we can make that amendment in group, in mass, rather than individually citing each one, correct?
We can just reference the letter, not reference each
Yes, if
standard.
you want to, you can say we adopt in full the findings
Thank
and conclusions as set forth in the planner's letter as our reason for why the applicant meets the standards, the review standards of the zoning ordinance.
Mr. Duncan? As stated?
Wrap that around again, yes, as stated, yeah, that the applicant has met the 7 standards, but attention paid to the standard of the MDOT survey as discussed previously.
Okay. And Mr. Mulder, do you amend your support?
I do.
Okay. We have a motion to recommend to the Township Board to recommend the rezoning of this property from industrial to commercial, general commercial, and stating that it meets the standards as noted in the planner's letter, paying special attention to the MDOT item, that noting that that is still open, or in discussion.
Yes.
I think is what you said. Okay, great. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you need a roll call?
Oh, no, I haven't done roll call on any of these.
It's
Do you want
not
me to do roll call?
required. You can request it, it's not
You
required.
usually do it.
okay. I'm just being the secretary.
Oh, that's good.
Make sure, I had my notes. I'm in favor as well, so
Okay,
if we don't
so
do the roll
let's do
call.
that again. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, our third case our third case this evening, please.
Oh, that's me again, okay. Case number 27-23-RZ, Chris Holzbeck at 36727 Jefferson, and 27041 Lance Cruz, requesting a rezoning of 3 properties, the third one at 27155 Lance Cruz, from R1A to R1D. Special land use as well will be considered as part of the rezoning. Special land use request would be only for 27041 Lance Cruz and 27155 Lance Cruz for the purpose of constructing 2 family dwellings.
Thank you. Mr. Holsby. Hi.
Welcome back.
Nice to see you. Welcome back.
Chris Holzbeck, 239 North River Road, Mount Clemens. As most everybody knows, we were here before. We proposed a special land use for this same property. We were going to construct, we started out with 36 units, and then we worked our way down to 28 units. Upon full-blown engineering, we found out that the condominium project that we were going to do wasn't conducive to the amount of the improvements were going to cost. We had pretty much roads going in through the whole property with only one side being developed. So the sewer, the water, the landscape, lesser units, we were only developing the north side of the road, and the development cost was close to 7 figures, which we couldn't bring the units in at a costly manner. We would have to have over $400,000 for a townhouse, and I didn't think that was going to warrant this area. So we are still wanting to get this development underway, do something, clean up the property. We do have one existing building that used to be a daycare center. So when we came in, talking with the planner, Adam, I was proposing to get the lot split to the west of the daycare center into 3 lots, and the daycare center, which we're ready to move on, and we actually have buyers for it as a duplex unit. The other 3 units we're proposing right now, 5 of the units have somewhat of a reservation on them. Ranch units are what's popular for the area. We haven't had a whole lot of response to like townhouse units. With talking to the planner, we were only going to do the adjacent properties to the west, but I think the property had 3 different zonings to it, and Adam and I looked at it and said we could clean it up and ask for one general rezoning to, I think it's RM1,
R1D.
R1D. So tonight, I believe we're asking for the entire parcel to be R1D, but we're only planning on developing the units that you see now, leaving the other site for future development. We know Harrison Township has downtown district plans. We've heard several different ideas for the areas across the street in the downtown district. And we would like to be a part of that if it happens. If what we propose works out good and the units sell well, we'll probably be back asking for the rest of the parcel to be zoned pretty similar to what we're building. We have spoke with the planner. We've addressed the 7 questions for rezoning. I have read the Selfridge recommendations. We were granted the 28 units. With the R1D, I believe we would have less units than we would in the previous special land use. With that being said, I think that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Holzbeck. Okay, Mr. Young, anything additional?
I think the summary, give us a little background on the history here. Obviously, we've seen Mr. Holzbeck several times over the last couple of years for this. As you know, they came through and were given approval of a conditional rezoning last year that would have turned this entire site into RM1 multiple family residential. But that conditional rezoning was tied to certain conditions. One of them was the development of the property based on a concept plan that showed 28 total units. And it was a combination of this daycare would be converted to a 2-unit, and then I think they were going to do an 8-unit structure between the daycare and the property to the west. And I think the other combination of between maybe 4 to 6-unit structures, I believe, on the remainder of the site. For the reasons that were specified, they've kind of decided to revise that plan. Therefore, the 28 units not being on the table, which is what was approved as part of the conditional rezoning, essentially makes the conditional rezoning no longer valid, because if you can't do it based on what was approved for, then the conditional rezoning is no longer valid. So for that reason, they've decided what do we need to do to move forward with this development, which is essentially the splitting off of these pieces of property to create 4 2-family units at this location on the western side, and the remainder of the site is just designated for future residential development according to this plan. Essentially, that means you wouldn't be approving anything for this location. They'd have to come back at a future date when they decide to move forward with anything for review and approval. Since the conditional rezoning is no longer valid, we kind of have to go back to what the properties were previously zoned. As you may recall, this corner of the site was zoned R1D, Single Family Residential District, and the remainder of the site was zoned R1A, Single Family Residential District. The only difference in those 2 districts is the minimum lot sizes that would be allowed. The R1A requires, I think, 12,000 square foot minimum lot size versus the R1D, which is a lower minimum lot size. The uses allowed are exactly the same. the R1, so the applicant is suggesting we'll keep this R1D in place and we'll rezone the remainder of the property to R1D so that the entire property will be under R1D, single-family residential district zoning. The applicant, again, has indicated that they want to develop duplexes, though that is an allowable use as a special land use within the R1D district. And so they are additionally seeking at this time the rezoning to the R1D, so that the entire property is zoned R1D. And they are also asking for special land use approval for these 4 two-family units. Essentially, what that means is if you would approve both the rezoning and the special land use, they could move forward with the construction. They would need to get building permits from the building department, but essentially this is, it would be, you wouldn't see, they would not need to come back to you for site plans, because for 1-family and 2-family site plans are not required. The special land use would be tonight. They would need to just get the building permits through the construction plans through the building department. So the procedure for both the special land use and rezoning is that a public hearing is required, so that's what's being held this evening. For the rezoning request, that is a recommendation that goes to the township board. For the special land use request, let me double check on that, but I believe that rests with you, the planning commission. So if you were to vote on 2, it would be the rezoning request would be your recommendation. If you also were to vote on the special land use, let's say it was approval, you would want to condition that on the township board officially adopting the rezoning. So just wanted to kind of bring that out. So that's the case at hand and the reason for the public hearing. So if you have any questions for me at this point.
Just one, so two separate motions or one motion interdependent?
I think I would recommend 2 separate motions.
Okay, thank you.
The rezoning would be the first.
That's what I was curious of also, if they were tied together or
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Young. All right, any questions from any of us before we open the public hearing?
Just one clarification,
I'm
that we just
sorry.
said that. Yeah, because you could approve the rezoning,
The recommendation.
the recommendation for the rezoning.
Right.
And
And
you
that
could
would go
not
forward.
approve, you could deny the special land use request. They would still get the rezoning, but then they'd have to come back with a different configuration, so to
Presentation
speak.
for-
You know, that isn't 2-family, I suppose, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions for the applicant or Mr. Young?
So if the 2-family dwelling special use is approved, then the applicant just has to meet the prescriptive requirements of setbacks and 2-family open space and that sort
Yes,
of
open space, minimum lot size, minimum dwelling unit size, the minimum lot size and width, because they would need to split off these 4 parcels.
That was my next question. So they would also be creating 4 new lots?
That's
from the-
correct. Building setbacks, maximum lot coverage, all of that would be verified by the building department.
Okay, and so the lots that are proposed to be created, are those in compliance with the R1D area?
Correct. Yep, as shown on this plan, the setbacks and essentially the building envelopes are all in compliance with the R1D district requirements. 82.9 feet, so just the 3 new ones would be just under 83 feet. And then this one this would be 95, the one with the existing building on it.
And the side yard, it's in compliance as well?
Yes.
In compliance, okay.
Yes.
So it is possible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, this would be feasible.
okay. We just don't want to be,
Right, you don't want to
Special
approve a
use that
special
isn't
land
even
use for something that
feasible.
is not feasible. Absolutely.
Mr. Holzbeck just indicated that's the maximum building envelope listed. there.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, and if no other questions, should we go ahead and open the public hearing, please?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for case number 27-23-RC.
Motion to open, may I have a second?
Support.
Mr. Mulder, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is open. Okay, you know the drill. Someone like to come up and, okay. Let us know your name and your address, and I'm going to put you on the timer for 3 minutes.
Ms. Margaret Shanville. I live at 27835 Riviera. I've been a resident for 56 years at this property. Why do we have to change from R1 to R1D? How many units total? I mean, he's proposed this before, and now he's changing again. How do they look like? Is it a cookie cutter? Are all the same? Are there going to be rentals? And if there are going to be rentals, how many are going to be rentals? Condos or houses or apartments? I mean, right now, he's saying he's talking 2 families. But is it a condo-type house or is it an apartment-type house? There's already a set of apartments next to this lot. Adding more units could possibly go into rental more units. And right now, basically, the traffic on Lance Cruz is really, really bad. And like tonight, when I came over here, Luigi's is parking across the street. You get 4 more driveways or 8 more driveways, depending on however this is configured. It's going to create more problems for the people that live in this area, that have been here forever. Also, because of that, I just don't understand why, we just all of a sudden want to have all these multi-dwelling when they're all single families along here. And right now, there's a lot of pollution going into the lake. Murdoch Drain is not taken care of. And as a result, now we're going to be adding multi-units. That's going to create more problems. We can't even get the weeds get cut down. I mean, I almost got hit a month ago coming out of my street, which is hard to get out as it is. And now we're going to have people coming in Lance Cruz. That's where the school buses go. That's where the fire department goes. That's where the police department. It's one of our main through areas within the township, which there's only a few when you kind of think about it. From Shook Road to Rocker to basically Lance Cruz, and then you're talking Prentice. That's it. So now you're going to add more residents coming out on that area or going into that property, and you got a restaurant across the street that can't even accommodate the people right now. So how is that going to help? I mean, you start looking at this, we're at a very, what they call a bedroom community. We're mostly single-family owned homes. So now we're going to have all this other noise and all this other stuff going on. And are any of these going to be Section 8 units? And what is the estimated value of these houses? Is it going to decrease our property in this area because now it's multi-units instead of single-family units? That's just some of there. Most people move into this area because of it being a single-family area. It's family-orientated. But if these become rentals, that's going to be people coming and going. They're going to be empty units. And then we go back to the thing. When there's empty units, you end up having nothing but garbage sitting around. I mean, the things are deteriorating on buildings because nobody's taking care of them. Yes, the township will issue ordinances, against the ordinance. But let me tell you, when he issue it, they take forever to enforce it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burdell.
C. William Bardell, 26-year resident, clean cut boy next door, 37865 Point Rosa. I'm wondering about these double units, and I've seen these duplexes in Harrison Township, and they look like dumpsters. If you ever seen them, they're unregulated. You got renters in there, crap all over, junk cars and everything else. Now, are these going to be breathtaking $275,000 Italian brickwork with garages and breathtaking duplexes like out in West Bloomfield. I don't believe they are. Are they going to be, when I hear the word ranch, I get queasy. Now, if you said split level with garages, 1.5 car garage, so you can store your snow blower and all your junk and your car and your bicycles and all your stuff, 1.5 car garage, breathtaking split level, you could probably get 300. Use your imagination a little bit. But these are going to be like A-frame, probably hotel rooms, like you see on North Point. And that's the problem we're having in this township. We live here. We live here in this township, okay? We invest our money. This is like our toothbrush, not our bedroom, our toothbrush. So this sort of thing, if you're going to have breathtaking duplexes that are take your breath away, that are out of this world with fancy brickwork, there's many different grades of brick, roofing materials, composites, there's decking, there's so many new things building now, and the price went down because everybody and their brother sells it. There's so many creative things you can do other than the A-frame hotel room type things that are going to end up being Section 8. Woot, woot, there it is, I said it, okay. But I'm going to say it. We want people with skin in the game that are going to come here and buy a house. We like single-family homes. I mean, if you had some breathtaking duplexes that had separate entrances that you wouldn't see two front doors right together like that, and they were breathtaking, creative, yeah, maybe you could get away with it. But no. Same old song and dance, Aerosmith, 1974.
Thank you, Mr. Bardell. Anyone else?
Mike Wyatt, 26931 Pontchartrain. I just can't understand why we can't just keep this kind of stuff as a single-family resident. Our master plan calls for owner-occupant. And I think that's what everybody's trying to say here. We'd like to see people who own the house occupy the house. I think that is pointed out in our master plan. I think it's something that we should continue with. I really wish Mr. Hosbeck would turn around and look at that and decide to build maybe 3 really nice single-family homes there. So with that said, that's it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Brozovic. I'm from 26861 Pontchartrain, and I have lived in the township over 60-plus years. I wonder why your plat never mentions Pontchartrain in any of these things, because that's a neighborhood of custom homes. In fact, right now on Pontchartrain, we have a house being built that's probably going to be $400,000 plus. Nice homes, got 3-car garage. Those are the kinds of homes that we want in our neighborhood, not little tiny cracker boxes. And that's basically all I have to say, is that it's a neighborhood. We all take care of one another, and we want it to stay that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? This is your opportunity. Okay. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Mr. Mulder, Mr. Duncan. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, discussion. Questions for the Mr. Holzbeck, did you want to address,
Why, certainly. If the board remembers, the existing daycare is a ranch unit. The ranch units out of a ranch, a split level, and a townhouse is the most expensive unit to build per square foot. It's probably about 25% more than a townhouse, but they're more appealing to the people that are looking to buy in Harrison Township in this area. What we're finding is we have a lot of people with larger houses in Harrison Township, whether it be on the lake or off of 16 Mile Road, that are growing older and getting second residences in Florida, Arizona, or whatever, and they're looking to stay in Harrison Township, but they want to downsize. The daycare unit, the buyer that wants to buy that is a sister and a brother. They want to live next door to each other. The board has already seen the plans. There are two full two-car garages on it. One side of the unit is 1,800 square feet. The other side is 1,400 square feet. They're going to go for 300 plus, which is very conducive to the Lance Cruise Street. If you do any comparables down Lance Cruise, the prices, I would say, are going to improve the value of the homes. We do have to consider, like the residents have said, we have a restaurant across the street. We have a parking lot across the street. The parking that is going on the property right now, I don't complain about because it helps a neighbor that has a adjoining property or restaurant. Once these are built, it won't be a free-for-all for parking on that vacant land, which it is. We have the apartments to the west. So I think downgrading to 2-unit houses, they're residential units. Each unit will have their own garage. On the lots, whether we can do a full 24-foot or two-car garage, we're planning on at least a car and a half on each unit. The garages are going to be in the center of the units so that the front doors will be separated by the garage. So the front doors will not be right next to each other. But each unit will have their own garage to store their snow blowers or stuff or whatever if they don't elect to have a snow plow company. If you look at the property now, in the past year, over the summer, we do have lawn care on site. We leave a lawnmower there, so there are no weeds that are hindering anybody pulling in and out. It's kept clean. I've met the supervisor over there twice this summer. There was one complaint, but we had so much rain, we could not run the lawnmowers, and I showed him the standing water, why the grass was not cut at the time. These units are going to be brand-new houses, two-family houses, so the upkeep on them for the next 20 years is going to be minimal. They're not going to look like two-family houses that were built in the 1960s, and nobody has ever attended to them, so in 20 years, who owns these houses, I don't know. Our plans are not to rent them. I'm a developer. If you look at my history, I have no residential rentals at all. I acquired one about a year and a half ago. I kept it for 1 year, which I had to for tax purposes, and I sold it. I'm not a residential landlord. I'm not even a commercial landlord. I'm a developer. I build and sell. Whether or not we build ranches or if there's a need for 2-story houses, I'm not opposed to building townhouses. It allows us for a larger garage because the living space is upstairs. These are not going to be equivalent to what's built in West Bloomfield, 4,000 square feet, unless I can get a dozen owners that vouch and come in and buy the property and give me some down payments. I'd be happy to build it. I've built them all. They're not going to be A-frame units. They have to comply with the township ordinances, which I do not believe the township allows A-frames in Harrison Township or the roof pitches or the heights or whatever exceed. Value-wise, right now we're marketing them at about $325 to $350. The reason that we held back on our conditional zoning is we exceeded the $400,000 mark, and we did not think that our sales were going to be really good, exceeding $400,000 for condominium. So we are trying to keep in the 300 range. People are going to add extras. The people that want to buy the daycare center have already talked about multiple extras, and we're planning on building nice units. They're going to be presentable and hopefully fairly maintenance-free for the first 20 years. But I agree with the residences that, there will be bylaws. The attorney's got to come up with them. I believe that we'll have to submit something to the township for HOAs or whatever for the individual duplexes. So we are ready to move forward. The daycare center, we would have to go to the township board to get approval, but that's the reason that we only did from the daycare center to the west. Any other questions? I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Holzweg. Commissioners? Any questions for the applicant?
Just clarification on one of the comments you made at the end there about a HOA for the units. Is that like a condo development for all the units, or would it be a separate HOA per
lot.
duplex?
We would have the same agreement for every individual lot, but it's not a condominium develop. We are asking for 80-foot lots is what we're asking for tonight from the daycare west. So for each lot, when they get sold, they would have stipulations of what they would have to do, such as the roofs. There would have to be money for the roofs. You don't want to have a duplex with a red roof on one side and a green roof on the other.
But if it's not a condo, there's no mechanism to require that then, right?
You make that part of the HOA.
So, yeah, these are not going to be condominiums. This is not a condominium. From my understanding, Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but each of the 4 lots that would be created, that he's proposing to create, each lot will have a duplex on it. He will be selling each lot individually, and a new owner will take ownership of that. That owner may have to comply with any, I suppose he could add deed restrictions as part of the sale. That would be his choice as to whether he wanted to do that, that could relate to
We will
whatever
have deed
terms and
restrictions
conditions.
because we're not planning on selling all the duplexes to one person and renting out the other half. We're planning on selling each half of the duplex to people that are living.
The person who purchases all 4 or any one of these properties, they could live in one side and they could rent out the other side, or they could rent out both. Unless he would put some stipulations related to that, but I don't know why that would be the case. So we should just assume that this would be like any other duplex, each one of these. Somebody would own the duplex. They could live in one side, they could have their family, their son on the other side or whatever, or they could rent them out as they see fit.
But that sounds a little bit different than what you just said. You said you would be selling both sides of the duplex individually?
If one owner wanted to buy the entire duplex, he would be able to, but each side would be for sale for, like, say Lot A, it'd be 300 to 350 per side.
And that's where I'm trying to understand how that works.
There'd be
One lot, 2 owners, and it's not a condo.
I don't know how that would.
There would be a deed restriction. We've talked to our attorneys. Most duplexes do have something, and both sides would have to comply with the restrictions. So
It's a private sale.
it's called common area.
Okay.
So the roofs would be common area, the driveways would be common area, and more than likely, the landscape would be common.
Okay, yeah.
That wouldn't be
just
something the township would enforce, right?
We do
I mean, the
not
township
enforce-
isn't
no,
going to be
it's
able to
done-
say your roof has to be a certain.
Exactly.
Other than what the township minimum is now, right?
Correct.
Any other questions?
Are you gonna offer the same table?
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna offer him the same?
I was gonna say, we had
Yeah.
the letter from the Fire marshal, I think that's the only
Yep.
other
Madam Chair.
correspondence we have.
Fire marshal? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I had a question myself. I know that in the previous submittals, that there was a concept rendering for at least how that existing daycare would be repurposed as a duplex. I wondered if that is still your plan as far as the character of, is it going to look like that? And I wondered if that's similar to what your plans were for the other three. And I just, because that was one of the things that was asked during the
'Cause
the
we
public
already know
hearing,
what-
the character
yeah.
of the dwelling. I'm just curious if that.
We are going to keep the daycare center, as you saw before, fairly close to the rest of them. They're all going to be consistent. They will be as nice or nicer than what we proposed for the daycare. I was going to bring some renderings tonight, but my son pointed out, if you haven't put it in already, I'm going to look at it. For $350,000, we're not asking for manufactured housing. So the daycare center, if we get approval, we are keeping the same exact plans, and we're ready to move forward with it. And each unit will have their own garage.
2-car.
With the ranches, I think the best we can do is a car and a half.
Okay.
With the townhouses, I believe we can do 2-car garages. The daycare does have 2-car garages on each side. One's existing, and then the garage. The daycare center is the only one that will have separate garages, meaning one on the west and one on the east. The other units, we're hoping that the driveways will be in the center of the unit to separate the front doors.
Thank you, Mr. Holbeck. Mr. Shackett?
So the fire department reviewed these plans. As we know, they're significantly different from the previously approved plans. There's no issue with the plans as submitted for the rezoning or the special land use. The undeveloped side, if it is to be developed, we're gonna require a site plan for that at that time.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant or the planner? Or among yourselves? Do you want to address the standards, the special land use standards?
I think that's where you at.
Yes, I believe you've submitted a letter to us with your indications as well.
Yes.
Oh, yes, right here.
Yes, so I have a letter dated November 3rd. As you know, we have 7 standards for the rezoning, and we have 8 standards for the special land use. I had comments that I think I've offered that relate to both. The standards are similar, you know, in both cases, the master plan, in both cases, compatibility with the surrounding area, the established zoning pattern. Is the site conducive to development? Is it served by public utilities and services? And is there a demand, the apparent demand for the use at this location? So, first, with regard to the master plan, the 2010 master plan calls this part as being part of the Jefferson Crocker Waterfront Business District. The 2015 Waterfront Redevelopment Plan says the same. Essentially, it says that this area, not this site, this location, in general, is to be part of a planned mixed-use area within this Jefferson corridor, looking at, you know, thriving businesses and varied entertainment opportunities, high-quality living environments, an active lakefront, inviting public spaces and varied recreational opportunities. Obviously, what's being proposed at this time is not a mixed-use development. It's simply this western end of the site to be developed for 2-family units. The remaining frontage is, you know, to be determined at that time. You know, as far as, you know, the master plan, the mixed use, any potential for businesses to locate here that would be along the Jefferson frontage, certainly not, the western part, the western end, and along Pontchartrain or Lance Cruz, really. So I don't think the master plan really speaks one way or the other to maybe this western portion. So I think we need to look at, what is the surrounding area like? Obviously, we have an apartment building to the west. We have single-family residential on both sides. And then we have, the Jefferson Avenue that has the potential for something different, maybe multifamily, maybe more residential, maybe commercial, down the road. We don't know what would be proposed. So you can kind of see, from a planning perspective, the transition from higher intensity along Jefferson to transition to the single-family residential that is further to the west. You do have the existing apartment building. I think the duplexes, does make sense as a transition between Jefferson to the east and single-family ultimately to the west. As far as the development, is the site conducive to development? Obviously, it was previously, part of the Lance Cruz administration complex. There are no apparent constraints to the development of the property. You do have single-family residential zoning predominates this area. We have the existing R1A district immediately to the north and to the west across Lance Cruz. All of these residential properties presently are zoned R1D, so this zoning designation, R1D, would be matching what's across the street. R1D development, obviously, if this was rezoned, it would allow for additional residential development. The two-family dwelling, as we talked about, is a special land use, but the R1D does allow single-family residential. Obviously, the applicant has indicated to us tonight that he'd like to move forward with two-family residential. There seems to be adequate capacity for public services. Public utilities are in place at this location. Capacity of the street system. I don't know if the applicant has indicated how many driveways, whether there'd be 2 driveways for each of these units or 1. That might be something that you'd like to inquire with them. That was something that was mentioned during the hearing. These driveways presumably would have direct access to Lance Cruz, but this is typical, Lance Cruz, the properties across the street, obviously each single-family home has their individual driveway to the street. I believe that the rezoning to the R1D, which is a single-family residential zoning, I think this makes sense for this location. The special land use request, the two-family complexes, as I said, I think that is a reasonable transition between Jefferson to the east and the neighborhoods to the west. Certainly, if you're interested in finding more about the character, you could request maybe them to submit the concept plans and for your consideration to ensure that it would be an appropriate fit within this area.
So that would mean handling the special use separately from the zoning, if we were to
Yeah,
get that approach.
I think procedurally, you ought to do the rezoning first and then the special land use. If you wanted to find out more about the special land use, you could do that, or ask for additional information to be submitted.
Well, so you heard the past 2 cases. We're an even bunch. So do you want us to move forward with a vote? Or do you want to table until you have a full board, full commission?
I would ask to move forward.
Okay.
I would like the board to consider the one reason that I came in for the 3 parcel splits and the daycare is everybody's a little gun shy on what I'm gonna build. Paid a lot of money for the land, so I've got to build something of some supplement to get my money back. And I'm going to have to come in front of you after I build those 3 units to get the approval for the rest of the site. So if you don't like what I built in the first 3 units, it's probably going to be an embarrassment for me to come back in front of you. Secondly, I would prefer not to get tied to a set of plans. With the interest rates and the economy the way it is, we do need to build what is selling at the moment. Those 3 units, we are planning on building ranch units. I would, because I know it's a concern coming out to Lance Cruz, tell you that the 3 new lots would have a single driveway. We've already considered that. They would have a minimum of a 1-car garage, 1 car meaning like 15 feet wide, so I would call it a car and a half, but I don't know the exact designation of that. We're not planning on putting 10-foot wide garages on it. The daycare, we were kind of handed to us, and I don't think it's conducive to a one-car entry. The whole front of the daycare would end up being concrete. So we do want to put 2 two-car garages on the daycare with separate driveways coming to Lance Cruz. If it was a big deal, we could try to do it into 1 car, but I think we're hurting the aesthetics and the value of the existing building. So yes, I'd like to move forward with a vote. We are ready to start cleaning up that daycare. I'm tired of cutting grass and chasing things around.
Okay, thank you.
Can you clarify, you said 1 single-lane driveway per unit or per lot?
So each duplex is going to have, say, a 15-foot garage. So.
Together.
Together.
Next to each other.
So we're going to have parking in front of the garages, and whether or not the ordinances, we don't know, will let us come straight to the street, which would be ideal.
Taper.
We would have like a 30-foot driveway with a 34-foot wide approach. I think that the county possibly might have, is Lance Cruz a county street? It's going to be dictated how wide the approach can be by the county, but the driveways will be wide enough for each unit. But we would like to have 1 approach coming out to Lance Cruz. There's no reason to have 2 and with a little 2 or 3 foot strip like you see in other units in between that get filled with rocks or
Maintenance
something
issue.
eventually anyway.
Well, if you're breaking them into lots, you probably won't be able to do that, right?
Correct.
We will have to go by all the ordinances and everything else, but our wishes are to have 1 driveway coming out on the 3 units. And if the county doesn't allow us to have both approaches on the daycare, we'll have to bring that down into 1 driveway also.
Any additional questions for Mr. Holzbeck? Okay, let's address the rezoning request first, please. May I have a motion to recommend rezoning for the 3 properties from R1A to R1D?
I'll make that motion subject to the findings that are illuminated in the planner's letter of November 3rd.
Motion to request rezone as mentioned. Do I have a second?
Support.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Let's address the special land use. Special land use request will only be for the 2 parcels, 27041 and 27155, Lance Cruz, for the purpose of constructing 2 family dwellings. That's what it says, but I think you're indicating that you want
So,
three.
the two parcels that are involved in the special land use is this parcel right here and this parcel right here. The applicant is proposing to split off this section that's outlined in orange here for the 4 separate parcels.
So that's the two parcels, but constructing 2 family dwellings, but in reality, we're constructing 3 family dwellings.
No,
So
they're
3,
constructing 4
Well,
two-family dwellings.
Right, one already
One
exists.
exists, but
Yeah.
that's going to be converted to a
To a
two-family
two-family
dwelling
dwelling, correct.
from what it currently is.
Right.
So you're right, 3 new
Yeah.
buildings, 4 buildings total.
Okay.
All of them will be two-family dwellings, so 8 units.
So as far as the special use permit goes, I think there are still some questions,
yeah,
at least in my mind.
Okay.
I agree. I was comfortable with the R1D. I thought it was appropriate, especially based on the standards and the planner's recommendations, and the fact that we had previously rezoned this before under the old conditional rezoning. Special land use, I still have, I'd like some more information. I definitely have some more questions on.
Okay. Do you want to table that then, or do you want to seek more information right now? How do you want to handle that?
I would, this one I don't feel like I was completely prepared, because this was a little different. I had some questions coming into the meeting as far as the way we're splitting it off, and the fact that we're just doing the special land use for one that portion that we're splitting off. And it's still something I'd like more time to think on, because I'd also like to know, what's gonna end up happening with the rest of the property.
Well, what's before us is just this chunk.
Yes.
And what's before us is the existing daycare center, as we're referring to it, which will be split into 2 separate homes, two separate units. 3 additional buildings, 2 units each. We know they're gonna be ranches. We really only have just this portion in front of us, just this portion to be considered. I think you indicated the rest of the property would be dependent on future need.
The future needs, the downtown district. There's always rumblings about what's going on up the street. And the reason we went for the zoning for the whole parcel was just to clean it up so we didn't have 3 different zonings on one piece. So in the future, whatever gets done on the front would be similar to what's added to the back, like I stated.
And more liking of a transitionary between the indicated units and all of the residential area and the master planned plan for that.
I thought this was a lot simpler because we have the apartments and we have the existing building.
So it's a nice transition.
So there's not a whole lot that's going to be a better fit in between the two. We already have the existing building, we have the apartments. Nobody's going to build a 4,000 square foot house there. I don't have the need, I had an 8-unit building there prior. We took that back down to 6 units. The lots, the green space is 3 times as large. I didn't really see a better fit for those 3 lots.
I think it's a nice transition. I do. I think it's a nice use of the property. I think that having continuity between the buildings and the existing daycare is going to bring, it'll be visually pleasing, as opposed to an up and a low and a, townhome style and ranch style. And
If it works well with Harrison Township and these sell and go well, we're not opposed to parceling off to the east and building the same thing. We want everything to look similar. I don't want it to look like 10 different developments. But we left the front piece one big square in case there was a better use for it in the future. But We need to do something with the existing building.
Yeah.
That's to the east would have a little bit different requirements because of the downtown district.
But that leaves that open for, for
And
potential.
I agree with the transition, that's why, I agree with the rezoning, the special land use. When we made the decision before, we had some elevations, you mentioned that you were gonna bring elevations, but obviously it wouldn't be in consideration because they weren't submitted ahead of time. I would like to see a little bit more information on exactly, what the buildings are gonna look like when you're talking about driveways and other aspects. Just a little bit more information on how that site will be developed for the special land use. And right now, we just have blocks representing the maximum buildable area. So that's my personal feeling, is I'd like.
Wanted to
see
keep
more
it
information on
simple
development.
and not have a lot of attachments to it like we did on the last one, because we don't know until we get through county, building department, everything else. We're gonna be 6 months down the road. What we're asking for is,
So if I could, I do not have a problem with keeping the Jefferson Avenue frontage vacant at this time. I think that's a good idea. We're not really sure what's gonna happen with the downtown development district. I think that's smart to keep that option open. We might want some sort of little low-intensity use commercial at some point. But the problem that I have with the special use permit at this time is that there's been several statements made, both by the applicant and by the township, that are contradicting each other. So I'm not even sure that what you're proposing would be enough based on the township ordinances.
As,
So
such
I would
as?
I would like some sort of site plan, it doesn't need to be the level of detail that has been asked for before, that shows where the driveways are going to go, where, in the building envelope, the buildings are going to sit. All the things that the applicant has discussed that, we all think maybe, I'm not sure that would work. So that's the area that I feel a little unsure about as far as recommending approval for the special land use. Again, I don't have a problem with the use of a duplex in the area. I think that, and it's, written about by many, experts in the field of planning and, real estate, that a mix of housing choices in a community is desirable, and that makes the community desirable from cradle to grave. If you only have single-family houses, you're only gonna have that small, segment of the population that can fit in those houses. That means my grandmother can't, my 20-year-old daughter can't live in a different housing choice and still be in the community. And in Harrison Township, we have a large and growing senior population, and those seniors do not have a place to live when they grow out of their two-story houses. So it makes total sense to me that a ranch house, townhouse, or rental or owner-occupied would be from a marketing standpoint, desirable in this community. But there's just too many questions that I have about the layout and whether what the applicant is proposing is even allowed by the ordinances for me to comfortably move forward recommending approval of the land use, special land use.
Mr. Young, is there anything that you can address regarding Ms. Devlin's statements and Mr. Mulder's to?
I don't have additional information to provide that would answer either of your questions.
Mr.
And I
Hall?
think it's reasonable to want to see the character of these units and the driveway situation.
And I would like to bolster that and agree with what Adam's saying. It is reasonable to want to see the character of the layout and have some visual, but don't forget too that you're reviewing whether duplexes, for the special land use approval. It does say in there you would like to see the character and the layout and stuff, but ultimately those reviews for the site plan are just gonna go in front of the building department to make sure it meets with our ordinances. You don't have to review the site plan in that regard, but I see what you're saying is you'd like to see the character of what is going to be proposed. Some rendering of the character.
So can we reasonably extrapolate from Mr. Holzbeck's comments, price, $325 to $350 per unit, $700 per building.
I will not, and I cannot guarantee the prices of the buildings. Right now, well, if anybody can predict that, God bless you. The economy falls apart, I'm not gonna sit on this building for $350,000 and commit to you that I'm gonna sit there for 10 years like we did back in 2008. Because I'll take a $100,000 hit and get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, no developer in their right mind. I will say that we can come in here with somewhat of a site plan, but if we build the first unit and it's a two-story or a ranch, and then somebody comes in and they want townhouses, I don't want to be held down. I'm asking for 3 separate lots. I'm held down by the existing building. If I wanted to supply a site plan, and I didn't know there was a planning commission's, shame on me, but I didn't know this was like architectural review. I thought it was planning commission. We could put some stipulations in. Adam and Rosemary could correct me if this isn't correct. I'd be willing to say that they're each going to have an individual one approach to every lot. I'd be willing to say that we could do 4 sides brick. I think it's in your building ordinances, most of the restrictions that I have to abide by, like the roof pitches. But I don't want to come in and say that I'm going to build 3 ranches and then we build the first ranch and find out that ranches aren't selling, then I got to come back and spend 6 months to get through to a townhouse and go back on what I told you that I was going to do.
But that's the nature of a special use permit. If you do a permitted use, then you don't have to do that. So Rosemary, can I ask you, is the 4 lots that are being created as a lot split, is that a legal lot? I mean, can he do that?
He can request the lot splits, yes.
Okay, how many are you able to do?
That would be for the assessor to verify that these are accessible as long as they meet the, the width and the length.
Isn't there a maximum amount you can do before it's considered?
70-foot wide.
The assessor would
number
verify
of
that. He
lots that you
couldn't
can
build
do?
this if the assessor didn't approve the lot splits. So that's a separate approval.
Right,
So
but-
if she denies it, it goes nowhere.
So my question is, do you know how many that you can have without it being considered a subdivision?
Yeah, I don't, that would be
I
the
don't-
assessor. I'm not
Yes,
sure what
and
the answer to
I
that
think it's
I don't
5,
believe it.
but I'm not 100% sure either. So that factors into it as well.
Right, and if it was, let's say if it was 4, she would deny it.
So maybe we want to find that out before we're,
But it's a separate approval. All they're asking for is whether this special land use approval meets the standards. It could be 1 ranch, 1 townhouse, you know what I mean? I get the wanting to see the rendering, but eventually he could do 1 of each
On 3 separate
on
lots.
3 separate
but
lots.
not if we don't approve the special land use.
That's true.
That's true.
So so he can put a single-family dwelling on 4 lots, no problem, if the township board approves the rezoning.
Right.
But, so now what we have to look at is how is it gonna be with 2 family on 4 lots?
Correct.
And so I feel like those questions are still out there.
The minimum in Harrison Township for a 2-family dwelling, Adam, you probably know this, is 70 foot.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So if we don't approve the special land use, the applicant is essentially stuck.
No, you can
No,
move forward.
He can
R1B.
still, so he can still develop those properties separately
For single family?
for single family.
He's got to have township approval of his rezoning, is his next step.
Correct.
So based on the discussion between the members and the planner, I would like to make a motion to table the special land use for case number 27-23-RZ. Based on the review of the 8 standards for special land use, particularly 1 and 5, addressing the character, that the character will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding neighborhoods, and that the proposed use shall relate harmoniously with the physical and economic aspects of the adjacent land uses, and give the applicant time to address both our comments and the comments that he heard from the public, and to be able to come back at our next meeting or the next time he's available to hopefully bring information to address those concerns.
But Ken, not to pursue it, but didn't we address those two issues tonight? That were conducive to the surrounding area, Adam?
Support that motion.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
it's
we're right
it's
in
to
the,
you.
yep, yeah, we are right in the middle, and
Motion was made.
I am going to, if you can hold that question, I'm going to push the motion, seek a second, and then open up discussion on the motion. So we have a motion to table special land use to address the special land use standards, items 1 and 5, as stated in the planner's letter, and allow the applicant to return with additional information addressing the questions that we brought forward tonight.
Both us and the comments you heard from the public, anything relating to those standards.
Okay. The character. Do I have a second on that?
I seconded.
Okay. Discussion on the motion. Okay, so for items 1 and 5, did you want to go into details specifically about? I know you mentioned them in detail. The proposed use shall be of such location, size, and character in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding neighborhood and applicable regulations and zoning districts to which it is to be located. And then 5, the proposed use shall relate harmoniously with the physical and economic aspects of the adjacent land uses in regard to prevailing shopping habits, conveniences, and access by prospective patrons, continuity of development, and need for particular services and facilities in specific areas in the township.
Well, Madam Chair, I think the point is, or at least the point I'm seconding, is that we don't know.
Okay,
Exactly.
all right,
That was the point of my motion.
okay.
Can I clarify just a smidge more? Is the
Yes.
point of your motion for the applicant to provide more information specifically to standards 1 and 5 in order to affirmatively find that it
There you
meets
go.
those
I was going to say approve,
Yes.
but I like that affirmatively fine.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Can I ask that we be specific on what they want me to provide?
If you can, I don't know, Ken, I was just going to say if you could,
You've been here before. We went through the special land use before on the last proposal to develop this. We know what you brought to the table the last time as far as information. I think that the information that was provided last time was sufficient for us to make a decision, and I would be looking for something similar.
I come in with 3 proposed ranches, and I want to change one, means I have to, can't change them. I have to figure out what we're building right
no,
Madam Chair,
thank you.
you're not asking for the plan
No,
No.
for the architecture style that will be built. You're asking for, maybe there's four styles, maybe there's.
Options?
Maybe there's options that you'd like to
It's a
share with.
character.
me.
Something
Maybe
that will
there's a
help
range of
Yes.
the commissioners
possibilities.
see.
Maybe
2 or 3
there's
options
that it
saying that
types
they're going
of
to be brick,
material
they're going to have
that you'd like to
garages.
propose.
We'd like to see the character.
You're not gonna commit, you're not gonna force his
Right,
hand on any
right.
one necessarily,
Yeah.
but within that range is what you're looking for, correct?
Yes, you know the building envelope that you're allowed to build in, and what you could, so the concepts as far as what you could put there, so we can look at the character, and then we can compare that to the surrounding neighborhoods.
I want to make sure I
And the
bring
driveway
great stuff
issue.
back.
Yeah, the
And-
driveway issue, yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah,
how
firm up
the-
driveway
yeah.
issue. Okay. All right, so any additional discussion on the motion? So we have a motion to table special land use to allow the applicant time to to present an affirmative action on standards 1 and 5. To
Can I
provide
ask one more
additional.
question?
To provide additional information to satisfy the commissioner's questions, asks.
To illuminate the character.
To establish character.
Since the character is already on the existing building, is there any way to get just a special land use for the structure that is up?
For the daycare center?
Correct.
No, I think we are
No, 'cause-
right in the middle of a motion right now for all four, since that's what was presented to us, was special land use for the full parcels. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We will see you in December. Okay. Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Unfinished business? New business? Correspondence? Comments from the planner?
Yeah, we had one tech team meeting at the beginning of November. That there was one case on the agenda. It was 35550 Jefferson Avenue. An existing party store close to Shook. They had property that was adjacent to their business.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, can you take the conversation outside, please, so that we can complete our meeting? Thank you very much.
They had one property that's adjacent to their business that they have purchased. It has a small house on it. They wondered how they could expand their parking area into that adjacent property. There's a lot of complicating factors in that. They'd have to really tear down that adjacent home in order to expand, and then they'd have to combine the lots. Then there are landscaping requirements, and there's stormwater runoff requirements. And so I think we maybe enlightened the applicant, who was hoping that there was a simple, easy thing that I can just throw some pavement onto the property next to me.
We just borrow this section of land?
We gave the applicant a lot of things to mull over. So I'm not sure. Ultimately, if anything were to happen, an expanded parking lot would have to come before you, the planning commission, anyway. So it was a discussion only item. That was the only case on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
I will also say that on the master plan, we have scheduled there is a public forum, best practices for master planning. It's serving essentially as a kickoff, kind of official public kickoff and informational and educational and awareness session about the master planning process. And that's scheduled for Tuesday, November 28th. It is at,
I think 6:30?
It's at 6 o'clock in the evening. There's information about it on the township website right now, on the front page under the news item.
That's right.
And there's a
Yes.
flyer for that event. Actually, I could pull it open if you wanted to see it. It is at the St. Hubert's Catholic Church in their meeting room there.
So, since that's a noticed event, we can all
Yes.
attend, right?
Absolutely. Here is the flyer. The Best Practices Forum, 6 to 8 p.m., Tuesday, November 28th, St. Hubert Catholic Church. Love for everyone on the Planning Commission, if you are able to attend, and of course, anyone in the public is more than welcome.
And is this item going to be recorded or videoed or?
We are hoping to have somebody record
Okay.
the session so that we could, say, put that on the website for
That would be
people who
great.
can't make it, to be able to watch it, a recorded version of it.
Okay, great.
And this is more informative for people to ask questions on the process, not actually.
Yeah, we're not
Directly.
making any decisions. It's an informative about the master planning process in general, informative about what are communities doing, resilient communities doing, what are some best practices for master planning. It's essentially setting the stage for the effort that we're going to be moving forward on in the next 6 months.
That's good, we need it.
There will be opportunities for people to share their thoughts, but it's not, it's more
It's not
informational,
intense.
educational. That's not the it's not the primary purpose to hear citizen comments. But
great.
there'll be opportunities to ask questions and things of that nature.
Looking forward to it. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the floor? Mr. Bardot,
Yes.
3 minutes, please.
C. William Bardell, 26-year resident, clean cut, do-gooder boy next door. Fix up, clean up, people helping people. I will be attending this, and best practices, I will be participating, I will be at that workshop. And as long as our standards in Harrison Township are not jeopardized, I know we have officials, the state of Michigan, I won't mention any names, that are overly zealous about who owns the, let's say I know we want more lake access to residents of Michigan and so forth. But my suggestion to them would be to buy lake property and get half the house for 3 times the money. And I sure hope that we're not planning on building, 400 square foot houses on 15-foot deep lots along the river or along the lake or any funny stuff. Or developing, no, I'm gonna be watching all that, because, I know I'm hearing some things, as, our buddy, Donnie says. As Donnie would say, I'm hearing things, and, I wanna make sure that, the powers that be, don't overreach what the residents of Harrison Township want, because we don't want to develop lots that are not deep enough, just so everybody can have a shed on Lake St. Clair or on the river. That's my point, and I know everyone talks about being creative, but if somebody wants to buy lake property, again, they can buy a quarter of the house for 4 times the money, like everybody else. And everyone says they want to be part of the community, and nobody lives here. You guys live here, of course, but I'm saying the people that come in here and want to build a shed and call it a house, and mini houses and all this other garbage, I think is ridiculous. So I hope we don't get none of that, construct these Connex boxes, steel boxes, and all this garbage, that's all ridiculous stuff. So I'm gonna be watching closely. I'm gonna have my favorite Martian antennas on, and we're gonna figure this out. So thank you so much for your time, and enjoy your night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Mr. Baker?
Baker, Selfridge, your National Guard base. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity to comment on the submittals. I believe you've probably seen a letter from the wing commander concerning the third applicant. So I just want to make sure you saw that, if you didn't see that.
No.
I don't believe I had that.
No,
on my list of-
Yeah, and that's probably my fault, because I was probably a little bit late getting it in, and
Okay.
when you didn't mention that, I didn't step up to the podium to talk about it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna call
so
you,
I
but-
apologize for that.
Okay.
That's more on my part. I should have gotten up when it
All right.
time for public comment. So, but if you have any questions concerning that, let me know. And I understand the motion will go before the board to be approved?
The rezoning.
The
The
rezoning.
rezoning will go before the board to be.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So
Mr.
if-
Baker, can I ask you, have you talked to Macomb County Public Works about these stormwater restrictions? Because
Yeah,
that's who really ultimately has
Yeah, we
jurisdiction.
did have some discussion with them, and I understand that if you have to, if you look at the guidance, it says if you have to put in stormwater retention to have it drain within 48 hours, if you have to do it, you have to do that. But there's some recommendations that if you have to do it, to try and do it this way. Design it this way if you have to do it, get it to drain within 48 hours, if possible.
Yeah, because the applicants are going to the county to try to get the county to approve it. And if the county doesn't know what Sang wants, then.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, that's something maybe we could talk about in master plan, and
I
sit
think
down
it would
and.
be better for you to set up a meeting with engineers over.
And bring
at
Macomb
I
County-
can help facilitate that.
Right, okay, no, and
They're
it,
just down, the next office down from me.
that would be great. I'm hoping, like, I did CC, like, I saw the master plan, and I did CC the county about that, and there's some recommendations in the S3 that was developed. So I would like to engage and just have those discussions.
Yeah, I think we had sent out letters, to the surrounding communities, we included, Selfridge, just to inform you of the fact that we're preparing a master plan. I think we did receive your response. I do have a copy of the S3 study.
And there are some discussions in there about detention ponds and stuff, so I
Sure.
think that would be a great discussion, because you're right, because the detention ponds aren't a township regulated requirement, they're higher up.
Right.
So that's, to figure out the best thing we could do for all involved, that'd be great.
I mean, so from my way of thinking, those letters are more an alert to the applicant that not only are they gonna have to deal with the county's stormwater requirements, that there may be some additional from you, but
Yeah,
these are township
and ours
requirements.
aren't requirements, they're just recommendations though, so, it's actually not even our recommendations, they're FAA recommendations, circular.
From the
So they're not requirements, they're just recommendations, the same as the commander's letter, with respect to the development, the third development. Discussed. If you have any questions, if you hadn't had a chance to look at that, if you have any questions regarding that letter, please send me an email. Oh. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
We appreciate you being here.
Sabrina, do you have that letter for the third one?
hard copies, but
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I didn't know.
Yeah, it came out.
You did.
It did,
I printed
okay.
it out. Today.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, our next meeting, Thursday, December 21st, 2023. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Mulder, Mr. Duncan.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion